Welcome to the Renewed Nurse podcast, focusing on nursing well-being, presented by the Centers for Nursing Excellence.
I'm Melanie Houston. I'm the Chief Nurse Executive for WVU Medicine.
Hi, and I'm Allie Dempsey. I'm a med-surg nurse working at Ruby Memorial Hospital. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Devin.
Oh my God, he was fantastic. He talked about spirituality at work, which takes a lot of different forms.
Right. Spirituality as a whole is so much more in depth than what I thought we were going to get into, for sure. He talked a lot about an experience with a faculty member that had Ramadan and wasn't able to experience a mealtime like everyone else.
Wow, right.
And it took seconds to fix that issue.
Right.
He also talked about, the West Virginia games where every single person, if you've ever tried to park at Ruby, every single person is at these West Virginia games. So
right.
Always nice to have a buddy at work.
That was kind of funny. Yeah. I hadn't thought about the games for spirituality.
Yes.
The other thing he talked about, which I've always thought is important, is having a connection at work.
Yes.
Some of the retention strategies are, do you have a best friend at work? Having a BFF at work is totally critical, and you got to really work on that.
Yeah, as much as we like to say, we do need to work, we need to support our families, we need to, pay our bills. You don't want to go to work and just be by yourself all day. You need somebody to get on it and tell you, what's real and what's not. So I think that's really important. He also touched on tea for the soul, which was really nice. I've never heard of that before, but I can just picture someone dragging a cart around offering tea, and I can picture you being the one to do it.
Well, I've done it in other roles, and I totally think it's cool. And what happens is as I said in the other episode, nurses don't take time for themselves. Right. So, I really think we should think about that as something just like a little bit of tea, a little bit of relaxation during a busy day. Right.
Just bringing it back to the first episode, you said, Allie, why do you want to be a nurse? How can we make this better? What is nursing well-being about? And I said, well, my patients are that's where we have to start. So think about yourself for once. And I think it'll make a huge, huge difference.
And I even shared like a personal story about how spirituality at work really helped me. And that was good for me to share that with everyone because it takes all different kinds of forms.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're going to, kind of briefly go over taking care of yourself, but if we make that change, we can do a lot more as well. Our next guest, she kind of brings every aspect of nursing into play. She's been a CA and nurse and from all different aspects of nursing, and we're excited to meet her.
Yeah, Maura Mullen is amazing, and she really does bring all those aspects into the role. And she's a supervisor and educator, so she's going to share with us the realities of starting through all those career transitions.
Great.
Today we have a guest from UHC, United Hospital Center in Bridgeport, and we are so excited to have Maura Mullen, and she's going to talk to us today about boundaries, well-being in the workplace, and some personal stories that we're excited to share with you.
Welcome to the Renewed Nurse, Maura. If you want to start by just telling us about yourself.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. My name's Maura. So I've kind of touched every aspect of nursing, I feel like. I was a clerk when I first started my career. I transitioned to a clinical associate on 7 East at Ruby. I was an extern at CVICU. I was a bedside nurse in NCCU. And then I went back home to UHC as a bedside nurse in their CCU.
Yeah, you've really experienced every aspect of both Ruby, UHC, you've been kind of all around.
And all the roles, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We love that because now you have experiences in what we're going to talk about in all the different roles. So you bring a unique experience, and especially the role of the staff nurse. Allie gives that to us all the time.
Absolutely.
And we've been given tips and tricks and ideas from people that support us. But it's really good for us to talk to you because you're in a leadership role, but you've been in a staff role. And so tell us your feelings and your understanding on well-being.
Well, I'd like to say that I got the privilege of hearing the last episode, and something that I loved was that postcode pause. Being a critical care nurse, I've worked countless amounts of codes, and that's not necessarily something that was on the radar for us. It was just, here's a job, it's done, no matter the outcome, and I have other jobs to do. So acknowledging that that's a person, that there's families' lives that have been impacted completely and forever changed. So that was such a privilege to hear. But wellness to me really means wholeness. I can't say that I'm whole if my spiritual and my mental well-being are in shambles. Physically, I'm great, right? But mentally, I am in shambles. And we know now that those physical manifestations of having unwellness or unwholeness, it's trauma bonding. It's, that sounded weird, didn't it?
No, it's not weird,
Yeah.
Talk to us about trauma bonding, because that's a term we haven't heard. So no, nothing on this podcast is weird, right?
I've heard of it a couple times. Honestly, like TikTok and Facebook and things like that, now you hear all of these crazy like terms that nurses use, and I've heard that one for sure. So tell me a little bit about your opinion.
Yeah, give us some scoop.
So it's when you go through something traumatic with a group of coworkers, peers, a lot of military personnel go through this as well, because it's that shared experience that you can't really share with others who haven't experienced that with you.
Right.
So you create this bond of knowing and experience and acknowledgement with those people on your team. And so that's really where the term comes from, a trauma bond. It's unlike any other that you can experience from someone else.
You know what this brings up for me is the generational differences, right? And so when I started as a staff nurse way back when, 1984, and I'm sharing myself again, and these things happened, but we didn't have words like that to put around it. We kind of just, we didn't talk about that, and we didn't acknowledge it. And so as hard as these things are, it's so important that we're taking time to acknowledge it. And we're not perfect at doing it yet. But that was just something, honestly, Allie, like, we didn't talk about it. It happened.
Even mental health in general, like it just wasn't discussed. You went to work, you stayed there for 30 years, you did your time, you go home. Like that was just consistency is what happened. And now we're actually talking about it. So
you can probably see some of that in the generational differences at work.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you'll go into work, even just from giving report to a nurse. They're like, okay, tell me about him, I'm moving on. Now we have like the newer nurses coming in, tell me every single detail. And then you see as they kind of go on and weeks and months happen, you get used to it. But definitely generational, there's a different perspective on what they focus on, patient focused, themselves focused, versus what now the newer nurses kind of focus on too. So,
well, I bet COVID played a big role in this, because that's a shared experience we all have.
Right.
It was traumatic.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about what that was like for you.
So coming from Ruby to UHC, I thought I'd be taking a step back just because it's a community hospital, but really being there now, it's so formidable in the patient assignments, the community outreach, and the level of care that we're providing. I came back in 2020, which was super great. So things that could no longer be diverted, we had to maintain there. So upping the care that we were able to provide, surviving through COVID, like I said, trauma bonding with our staff there, making it through, you just kind of say, hey, this is another day, another down, I got to get through it. And it was this shared experience that really didn't hit me personally until I saw a message, and it was 2022. It wasn't even like peak COVID, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 years later, a message coming out like, hey, we need someone to come in. Like there's a balloon pump on the unit. I was like, oh man. And I remember exactly where I was when I got that message. And then almost immediately, one of my dear friends calls and says, hey, my dad's in the unit and he's on some kind of a pump. And I knew, right? Mm-hmm. He was COVID positive, which was kind of an afterthought that brought him in. He thought he just had a cough and his chest was hurting from coughing, but he had an LAD occlusion. He went to the cath lab and landed up on the balloon pump. So I was able to kind of assist with care, at least say like, hey, if you just want to see me, you could have just said, hey, like I'm in town or something. But he sadly declined and ended up being transferred to Ruby, where he ultimately passed away. And I just remember all those feelings and thoughts and experiences that I had experienced prior in the 2 years just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. We went on a family trip randomly that we had already planned. And the next assignment I come back to was a very similar situation, except a younger gentleman who cardiac arrest at home, never neurologically recovered, LAD occlusion on the balloon pump, like heartstrings are pulled, like his family's there, he's got young kids. And I remember the mom looking at me and saying, what do I do, right? And I'm a mom, so I just remember saying, you never know if the decision you're making is right when it comes to your kids. And I think she brought her eldest in, but like decided to leave her youngest out.
Hard.
Yeah, and just seeing people in their most vulnerable moments really brought that back to me. Like, the amount of people that we had seen pass. And working at a community hospital is great because on one hand, these are your neighbors, they're your teachers, they're your friends of friends. It makes the greats greater and it makes the losses even harder. So knowing that this is someone probably 2 or 3 degrees separated from me just kind of hit that home. So at that point, I realized that I needed to make a change even professionally. So there was an education position up. So being able to take that step back from bedside nursing really made the difference between leaving the unit and leaving the profession altogether.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Thank you. Me too.
No, I think that's really important. I mean, you came from like an ICU kind of perspective. I was a brand new baby nurse. I barely even knew how to clock in at that point. And then this massive pandemic comes along and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. I was 20 at that point, just graduated. And I'm like clocking in and I have 7 patients and all of them are, you know, on continuous BiPAP. I'm on a med surg floor. We had a small ICU. It's just, what do? I don't know how to treat these patients. I barely know if I should give you metoprolol or low pressure, or lisinopril at the same time. I just don't know. So I was just, the trauma that you say initially from my experience was feeling so helpless and so just scared. But at the same time, now that I think about it, like I hate to give COVID the kind of credit, you know, but it has a large impact on how I treat my patients today. I mean, good things and bad things. I just remember, you know, having patients that little pap in the room, all the doors are shut, we don't have any windows. All he wants to do is talk to his wife and we just bring in the FaceTime and we sit there and we talk to him. Obviously, you know, the patient ended up passing in the hospital, which is horrible and sad to kind of see every single day. But okay, I actually made an impact on that wife's kind of last vision of him. So there's good things and bad things that come from it. And I think that's how we kind of keep our joy throughout nursing. You know, every day is different and obviously bad things happen. I'm sure, knock on wood, you know, nothing that bad happens again. But if it does, I think we're a little bit better prepared on how to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So talk about how you help your team members, right? Because you've talked a lot about like what you did and talk about, because I think it sounds like you have a passion for this and you've kind of come back full circle. So is there anything that you can talk about your team at UHC and things that you're doing?
Yeah, so I was offered the position to come back as the clinical supervisor and educator, and I just felt like it was that prodigal moment, like full circle. I've built up these other capabilities in education, like being able to be out in front of a crowd and make those connections. But when I came back, I noticed that that mental break that I had, a lot of people didn't have that, and they were still stuck in the trenches. They never got to remove themselves. I had a coworker at one point who reached out to the employee assistance program and just really disheartened because they got someone new every single time. So every time they had to rehash that traumatic experience, it really had no resolve. I remember a similar situation that happened in COVID had nothing to do with what we were experiencing that day, but everyone that had experienced that situation were just trapped in that moment. The energy shifted, morale was down, and it just, people recanted that situation with extreme clarity and detail. And I knew that we had to do something that allowed consistency and psychological safety and just promoting that space for staff. So I actually, without permission, you know, asked for forgiveness, reached out to a third-party organization that kind of really didn't care about the energy of our facility. They didn't care what our prestige was. They just cared about nursing and they cared about our well-being. And they were able to facilitate a year-long peer support group where it was HIPAA. They were able to talk about whatever they wanted to. Myself and our other leadership were not invited, which was fine because somebody manned the floor, which was my little, like, my way of participating. Like, I'll watch your patients, you go take an hour.
Oh, that's
right?
great.
It was so nice. And I love patient interaction. I love talking to people. So having those one-on-ones with patients, like, that filled my cup. So initially, with anything new you throw out, everyone loves it, right? Oh, it's new, let's do it. It's bright and shiny. Slowly, we had like diminished numbers, but underneath all that was consistent members. It was a low number, but they kept going. And what they were able to learn transcended just that meeting. We saw it have implications at the bedside. They were holding space for themselves, which allowed them to hold space for their staff members. I remember there was like a traumatic day and someone, without being like prompted, like, hey, you should go give them a break. Like, hey, can you cover the lunch? Or like, hey, here's $5. Go get a coffee. I'm watching your assignment and I'm not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, I did too. Yeah, I was like, it was like that. Yeah, it's like that hard love, right? So it was just this small ripple that had this like tidal wave effect on our unit. So I might know too much about my staff, and our charge nurses know way too much about our staff, but like that theme, like leave it at the door, it's no longer a thing. We can't, right? You can't shut yourself off. We're not robots. We have a job to do that kind of seems robotic and emotionless, like the old ICU nurse bravado, you don't feel a thing.
Right.
But the way that we let compassion and our shared experience in really affects not only our patients, our staff, and then the family members whose lives are like, their trajectory is completely altered forever.
And what you talked about, I've felt for a long time. The unit is your family. During that 12 hours. And they know a lot about you.
Right.
And they always say that retention starts when you really have friends at work, when they're colleagues and they're friends, but that team is so important. And I think too, it helps, at least I think so, it's important to have joy at work.
Correct.
It's not all joyful, but going back to COVID was hard, and we made an impact. But like, I think slowly we're starting to bring the joy back and hope it never happens again.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's something too, like COVID stole a lot from us, but I always have to say, like, that was the first year of my son's life. Like, we experienced so many new things. Like, my family grew. I grew new friends at work. Like, coming back to a new job, I always say, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money, right? And that's just a lie I tell myself because I want friends, right? Yeah. But the family that I gained by coming back to UHC is really, I cannot put a price on that. And it's just, they mean the world to me. And I don't think I could get that anywhere else. I might have something that, resembles it, but it's truly, I cannot give that up.
I think that's important. I mean, like you said, you've created a lot of memories and kind of friends and family grew during that COVID time. And two of the friends that I met during prime time COVID were all brand new nurses. I'm training new nurses at this point, 3 months in, both in my wedding. So like,
you're kidding me.
Yeah, best friends, forever. And
they're your battle buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we call them, battle buddies.
Essentially, yes. Like, we've got through it. We can continue to get through it. And I think that's important. It makes you want to come back to work. Because if you, like you said, some people say just, I'm here to make money, not to make friends. Well, money, I have to pay my bills. I do have to pay my bills. Unfortunately, things are expensive. But I don't want to go to work and just sit there in silence all day. I want to talk to someone about something other than what's going on in the, enema that I have to give in 20 minutes. Like, I want to talk about something like just a little bit exciting, something different.
Right.
Yeah, and they got to experience something joyful with you. So, how we have joy at work and joy in our personal life. And, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna because I know it's hard. And we've talked a lot about that. But trying to really bring back the things we laugh about, the shared experiences. And I have a best friend who 30 years ago, we're still best friends.
Right.
That's awesome.
And, she's still working as a staff nurse and she keeps me real. I can tell you that.
That's the most important part about having friends that are nurses. They're like, get it together. I mean, what are you doing? Take care of yourself. So, that's important.
Well, we're going to wrap. Any other last stories? Like, it's been so exciting to have you.
I can say that something that I've got to do that I really enjoy is debriefing after traumatic situations. Again, it's a community hospital. We don't have as many resources as Ruby, especially coming from Ruby to UHC. Like, it was a very stark difference. But being able to hold space for staff in that, again, an OB and CCU situation, rarely ever do they play. But when they do, it's DEFCON 5. It's terrible. Something traumatic has happened. And being able to walk through that situation with that patient from both perspectives of the OB nurse and the CCU and really the care and the progression, it just held honor for both sides of that story because, hey, this is what you prevented on OB side, and then this is what we were able to work with. So their like quick identification of a decline really saved that patient. So being able to like honor both sides of that has really just brought me so much honor of being able to help them. But again, I'm one person and I have 2 jobs. So wearing a lot of hats is great. It's, variety is the spice of life. But again, it's a fine line between FTEs and, what you can give and what you can't give. And it's something I wish I could do more consistently. But
one thing we've learned is all of our hospitals have different resources. We're 25 hospitals. We're all a little different, which we love that. It's one of our hallmarks that we all are WVU medicine, but we all serve a different community, different patients. But what I think I've learned is sometimes it doesn't take a lot of resources.
No, it takes one person just to speak out and say, hey, this would be a good idea. And then things change. I mean, just one person can simply make the difference of, even if it is a small community hospital, like you said, the debriefing that you're going to bring back home. Like, it's a good idea. I mean, we like it. Let's try to get it started.
UHC's a pretty big hospital. We have hospitals that have 20 patients.
Right.
And so it's interesting how these things can cut across all of our hospitals. So that feels exciting to me.
Yes,
so we're going to wrap up today, and we've had, I think, 5 great episodes, and we're really excited.
Yes.
We're going to do a wrap up on, it's always good to ask, how does it feel? What's the feedback? Like we do in the hospital. So we always want your feedback. So we've taken a little break. We did our 5 episodes. We're going to do a wrap up next week. But once again, I'm Melanie Houston. I want to hear from you. I'm the Chief Nurse Executive for the health system, and I care about all of you and your feedback. So that's why we're doing it.
Right.
So my email is Melanie, MELANIE .Houston, HEUSTON.org. And I am excited about your emails. We want to be better. And we're hoping to see next season to do some other really cool and fun things. So more thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This podcast and video presentation were brought to you by the WVU Medicine Center for Nursing Excellence. For comments, questions, or suggestions, please email melanie.houston@wvumedicine.org with the subject heading Podcast Feedback. This program was executive produced by our Chief Nurse Executive, Melanie Houston, and developed and produced by me, Eric Small, with the Center for Nursing Excellence. Multimedia production and recording is by Chad Atkins. Our logo was designed by Carly Kale. We want to raise a special thanks to all of our partners in the marketing department at WVU Medicine for their work on this project, and to the nurses who dedicate so much time, effort, and care for the patients of WVU Medicine. Thank you.